Hello everybody, February 18th, 2022. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. So on Monday, the last public video that I did, we were somewhere in this region right here, and I said at the time, so far we've held this area in this channel. However, in that video I overlaid the fractal from the S&P 500 equity chart, and it basically said that we were going to see, if Bitcoin did the same thing, we were going to see this, a little pump up, and then an ultimate breakdown. And so on Monday I said, even though this held, this proves nothing until it actually gets that fifth wave in. If this had done that, it would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would have proven the bottom was in. We could have confidently bought the subsequent pullback after that. However, with the S&P breaking pretty much the exact same pattern, I warned on Monday that we may in fact see Bitcoin do the same thing. And lo and behold, that's exactly what we saw. So in this case, the fractal actually did play out. They don't always. You have to keep trading and looking at each chart individually, because they don't necessarily always do exactly what another chart is going to do, right? But in this case, the S&P has really been leading Bitcoin for quite a while now. So that breakdown on the S&P really made me cautious there. So it turns out that was the right move. And I believe the most likely scenario now is to head down to this lower low that I've been waiting for. Somewhere, around 30K, in that range, somewhere in there is likely. But realistically, just anywhere below this last low. That last low is about 33K. So I don't really care where we go, as long as it's below 33K. Or even potentially an equal bottom, right around 33, do a double bottom would be sufficient, but at least get to 33K or potentially go below is what I'm looking for this to do. Now, is that the only option? No, of course not. There's plenty of other options that it could do, but that's the one that makes the macro chart look the best, because I've been saying that it really has looked like it needs this next low, this final low, to give us a full 5-wave move down, because we only had 3 up to that point. So we should see that 5th down. All right, so zooming into the micro action, how is that going to play out? I would look at this as, let's get rid of that. I would look at this as our first wave here, second wave up, and so we're in the midst of the third wave right now, right? And if we draw a fib extension from the top to 1 to 2, we can see where we are within that, and the 1.236 is a pretty critical level. That level could be just another three-wave move, ABC. Right? We did breach it a little bit, but we're holding above it for the most part for now, right? So if we hold above that level and we start pushing upwards again, we go into the scenario where we've got lots of different things that could be happening, right? One thing that could be happening in that scenario is that we get a three-wave move up that doesn't exceed the high. And so this is actually a 1 and a 2 and a diagonal down, and then we get a 3-wave move down, 3-wave move up, 3-wave move down, and we do a diagonal downwards. That's a possibility. We could also see a 3-wave move up that doesn't exceed the high but kind of equals it, and then a 3-wave move down like this, and we could kind of just keep pressing sideways in a channel. That's a possibility. And finally, if we saw a 3-wave move up from here that surpassed this high, then we are likely going to be in a scenario where we've got 3 waves up here, 3 waves down here, 3 waves up here. We're in a larger diagonal. I don't like the larger diagonal for many, many different reasons, and so I don't even want to go into it unless it actually surpasses that high. And I'm really hoping this just tanks below our 1.236, because it'll make things a heck of a lot simpler if it does. So that being said, I just went through all of the possibilities that I really don't think that it will be and what I'm hoping it won't be. And so now I'm going to go through what I believe is happening and what I want to see, right? And so that is my yellow count here. 1, 2, 3 should bring us down here to about 38.2. 39.1 would be okay, but I think 38.2 is more likely. I'll show you why in a second. So finish off the third wave here a little bit deeper, then a fourth wave up back into this 40K region, and a fifth and final wave down into the 36, 37-ish region. And so if we zoom in even further, if that is in fact going to play out, we should see 5 waves within the third. And so far we've got 1 and 2, we've got 3, probably right here-ish. Could be there, it doesn't really matter. This is either 4 here, or it's making a pennant for 4. Again, doesn't really matter. 4 somewhere in this region, basically. Alternately, it could also press upward. This could be ABC up in 4 before we drop down. Something along those lines, though. Right, and then we should, at some point here, whether we go up a little bit higher and then come down, or just press down right now, we should make that fifth wave down. So let me just remove this real quick and see. Let's just call that 3 temporarily, and that 2. And let's see, resistance then for wave 4 is right in here. Okay, so this is resistance, immediate resistance zone up here, right? Up to about 41,276. And this is really not invalidated until we get above 41.8. So that's the line in the sand for an impulsive move is 41.8, 41,850 is the line in the sand for this to be an impulsive move. If we go above it, it's no longer an impulsive move. But it still could be doing that diagonal. Like I said, we could get a 3-wave move up like that, and then we press down for a 3-wave third like that. I know this is kind of getting a little bit complex. Hopefully you all are following me. If this is in fact correct, we should see this box right here between the 132 and the 1236 as the end of this fifth wave, which is the end of this third wave, right? So somewhere in here is where we should be headed, as long as we remain below 41.8. So whatever happens in here, even if it presses up, I still expect to push down here to get that fifth and final wave in of the third wave, as long as we remain below 41.850. From there, we'll see probably a bounce up and then a final move down. And once we get this in place, then we can get better targets for that, right? Because we'll draw a fib from that 3 to that 2. We'll get new fourth wave resistance. Our line in the sand will move down a little bit to the 0.5. And then our fifth wave target looks like it's down here somewhere, right? And this changes based on where this actually goes in here, but somewhere in the 35, 36, 37 area. Okay, so let's assume that all plays out. That would be very nice if it did. It would make things, like I said, much, much easier for us if it did in fact do that. So hoping that is what we see. If that plays out, what we then have is a 5-wave move down to 36-ish, right? That doesn't get us to the new low. So what that is going to mean to me is that that's actually a first wave of this final leg, which means we're going to get another bounce. Okay, so this area is very likely to be pretty choppy, right? As we start pressing down here, we're going to see a lot of overlapping moves where we go, down into the high 30s, back up into the 40s, down into the high 30s, back up into the 40s. I think it's going to be pretty choppy here for a while. Assuming this all plays out as expected. I mean, it's always possible for Bitcoin to just tank. It likes doing that if there's a lot of leverage in the system. But assuming this plays out, under normal rules, this is what I'll expect to see. We'll have a 1 and a 2, something like that. That second wave will go typically, let's just say that we get there for now. Second wave will go typically to around the 0.5, which is again right around this 41 area, but potentially as high as 43. So somewhere in there, ABC up for a second wave, and then at that point, see, I'm doing a lot of just like guesstimations here, just so I can kind of say this is what I think is going to happen, and show you how the math actually all works out really nicely with this area still, right? So if this is our larger 1, 2, 1, 2, our third wave will expect from there, once we get through all of this chop, and we get this larger degree second wave out of the way, we should see a pretty intense drop down. And this isn't going to be a straight drop, obviously. We'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 within it, but it should be a pretty intense drop down to about 31 and a half to maybe 29.8, right? That's the ideal area for that third wave. And we get another move up for a fourth and a final move down for the fifth, which should take us right here into this area, which is actually right now projecting 27.4 to 28.9. But as you can see, that certainly takes us to a lower low. So my plan is pretty much to start accumulating some small amounts down here. Once we get under 33, I'll start accumulating some. If we fully play out a fourth and a fifth wave like this, I'll accumulate a bit more at this low, but I'm going to look probably towards the end of this wave here, when it looks like we're getting under 33, it's getting really overextended. Like, that's where I'll start trying to accumulate, because it could truncate somewhere in here and actually start moving up from there. But I'll be on the lookout for a little bounce and then a move lower, and be ready to buy a little bit lower there as well for that fifth wave. And then I'm still not putting in all of my capital, because I'm still going to want to see a 5-wave move up off of that low. And hopefully what we will see, because that should end all of these things. That should be the fifth wave of the fifth wave of the Y wave of the fourth wave. It's a mouthful. It should be the end of all of those things, which means we should then be able to start our next leg up, which is looking like it should go to 100 to 130,000. That's the projection. So what we should see, if that's the case, is we should see a pretty clear impulse up. It shouldn't be this crappy 3-wave action, right? We should see a clear impulse. And if we can see a clear impulse down on the micro, we may have the opportunity to go, quote unquote, all in after we see like a really, really micro 5 waves up here. And then we see a pullback and we can go all in there, right? But whatever that initial, wherever we get a clear impulse from, even down on the 5-minute chart, I don't care. If I see a clear impulse form, I'll buy the heck out of the next pullback, because we'll have a completed correction, and we'll have an impulse off the low, and we'll have a clean stop, meaning below that low, and we can buy with pretty hefty confidence at that point in time. So I know that was a lot. It's a lot to think about, a lot to keep track of. But as of right now, what we really need to watch for is how this area plays out. I'm really, really looking for this to, like I said, continue downwards here. As long as we stay below 41.85, we should see a move down here, then up here, then down here. So choppy for a while through the weekend. That makes a lot of sense as well. And then we'll go from there. Once this area sort of clarifies, if we get a really nice clean 5-wave move like this, I'm going to be super happy, and we're going to be able to get a pretty good short opportunity as well. Some scalp shorts in here from this bounce. I'll be able to short that down, right? So if this all plays out cleanly, I'll be quite happy. But it has not given us too much of a clean move on anything recently. So we will have to see how clean of a move this turns out to be. But I'll keep tracking it, and obviously I'll keep letting you all know every Monday and Friday what the current situation is. But for now, like I said, downside is most likely and most preferable, to be perfectly honest. All right, everybody, have a good night. Trade safely this weekend. Be prepared for lots of chop. Don't get too over leveraged on anything. All right, good night.